I took double shifts for months to surprise her with a weekend trip. But the hotel registry later told me her room was booked for 2. Before watching the video, please tell us in the comments, which country are you watching from? My name is Liam Rhodes, and I am 29 years old. That week began like a promise, and I was ready to keep it. I wanted something simple, quiet, and honest for us again. Amber had been stressed, distant, and always glued to her phone. I told myself love needed space, not pressure and constant question. So I planned a weekend near the lake we both loved. I worked late, saved cash, and booked a room overlooking water. Her favorite cabin-style resort still sent me newsletters and off-season deals. I printed the confirmation, folded it, and hid it carefully. Friday would be perfect, I kept telling myself every tired night. I remembered our first trip there when everything felt effortless. We laughed at nothing, shared fries, and talked like best friends. Back then, she squeezed my hand and said I was home. I wanted that feeling again, bright and warm without doubt. So I timed everything around her schedule and project deadlines. I checked traffic routes, food options, and sunrise times for photos. I even called the front desk to request her favorite blanket. The manager promised rose petals and a late checkout without fees. Her mood that week looked better, which encouraged my hopeful heart. She hummed while cooking, wore the old hoodie I always loved. She asked about my day, listening without glancing at notifications. It felt like the version of us I missed badly. When she smiled at me across dinner, I felt 12 again. Busy weekend, she said lightly, glancing down, then back up. I laughed and said, I can make time for you. She nodded, squeezed my arm, and changed the conversation quickly. On Wednesday, I bought snacks she always grabbed on road trips. Salted chips, gummy bears, and the iced coffee she adored. I placed everything neatly inside the trunk organizer I installed. I washed the car, checked tire pressure, and filled the tank. I wanted no surprises besides the good ones I planned. Even the playlist was ready, filled with our early songs. I imagined her head on my shoulder at the overlook. I imagined forgiveness arriving with the first orange sunrise. But love sometimes speaks in warnings we pretend not hearing. Little things flickered like broken lights along a quiet street. She laughed at texts, then tucked her phone beneath a pillow. She said, girls' weekend might happen soon, if everyone agreed. I felt a pinch under my ribs and breathed it away. I told myself not to ruin what I was building. Trust felt like a bridge I didn't want collapsing, so I kept planning, steady hands hiding a shaking heart. Thursday night, I rehearsed the reveal in our kitchen. I'd show the printout, kiss her temple, watch relief bloom. We would pack overnight bags, leave before morning traffic. I pictured her surprise turning into soft, grateful laughter again. I pictured us holding hands during the ferry crossing, peaceful. I told myself doubt was fear wearing someone else's perfume. I folded the reservation again and slid it into my wallet. Tomorrow would be the day I brought us back home. Friday morning came like sunlight through fog, bright but uneasy. Amber was already awake, moving around the kitchen, humming softly. She wore that same blue sweater I'd bought her last winter. For a moment, she looked like the girl I used to know. Simple, happy, unguarded. I reached into my wallet, ready to surprise her with the envelope holding our reservation. But before I could speak, she turned and said, "Hey babe, I've got something to tell you." Her tone was light, too light. My hand froze midair. "I'm going on a weekend trip with the girls," she continued. "You remember them. Chloe, Natalie, the usual crew. We already booked it. Just a little reset, you know." I blinked, forcing a smile. "This weekend?" "Yeah," she said, grabbing her mug and laughing. "You've been working non-stop. I thought you'd want the house to yourself." Her laughter was effortless, but something about it felt rehearsed, the kind that covers guilt instead of joy. She kissed my cheek, still smiling. "Don't miss me too much." I laughed with her, but inside, something cracked. Just last night, she'd told me she was free all weekend. The sudden plan didn't add up. Still, I swallowed my questions. Doubt is easy to bury when love is desperate to believe. As she packed her bag later, I watched from the doorway. "You sure it's just the girls?" I asked gently. She looked up and grinned, tossing a hairbrush into her suitcase. "Relax, detective. I promise no secret boyfriends hiding in the trunk." Her joke hit harder than she knew. I forced a chuckle, but my gut twisted. It wasn't her words. It was how easily they came. Lies always sound smooth when they've been practiced. When she left, she hugged me like everything was fine. Her perfume lingered after the door closed, and I stood there, silent. For the first time, her scent didn't comfort me. It choked me. That night, I tried to distract myself with work, but the hours dragged. Every sound from my phone made my heart jump. She texted once. Made it safe. Long drive, but all good. I typed back, glad you're safe. Love you. She didn't reply. Later, I checked her social media out of habit. No posts, no tags, nothing. Amber was the kind who documented everything, even morning coffee. The silence wasn't just strange, it was deliberate. I stared at the dark screen, my mind circling like a storm. Maybe I was paranoid. Maybe she just needed space. But deep down, the truth was already whispering. She wasn't where she said she was. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying every smile, every word, every lie wrapped in laughter. Something inside me had shifted, the kind of shift you don't come back from. The house was too quiet that night. Every tick of the clock sounded like a countdown I couldn't escape. I told myself to relax, to trust her, to sleep. But trust doesn't come when your heart feels like it's being played like a fool. By midnight, I gave up pretending. I sat in the living room, phone in hand, staring at her last message. Made it safe. Long drive, but all good. No follow-up, no photos, no calls, nothing. For someone who couldn't eat without posting, her silence screamed louder than any proof. I opened her social media again. Still nothing. Her friends, Chloe and Natalie, had both posted about their quiet nights in. They weren't with her. My stomach dropped. The girls' trip was a lie, and suddenly everything made sense. The weird tone, the rushed packing, the way she laughed when I asked questions. I started scrolling through our shared photo albums, something I hadn't done in months. Old pictures of us at that same lake I had booked for her flooded the screen. Each smile felt like a cruel reminder of what we used to be. I almost laughed at the irony. I was planning to surprise her with that exact place, and now she was somewhere else, lying about it. I looked at the time again, 12:47 a.m. My heart pounded. I tried calling her, but it went straight to voicemail. Hey, it's Amber. Leave a message. Her cheerful tone hit me like a knife. I didn't leave a message. Instead, I grabbed my laptop and searched the hotel's name she had mentioned, the one the girls were staying at. It wasn't far, just a few towns over. My hands shook as I navigated the website, pretending to book a room. When I reached the guest registry section, I hesitated. Then I called. Good evening, a woman answered. Seaside Haven Resort, how may I help you? Hi, I said, keeping my voice steady. My girlfriend, Amber Lynn, checked in earlier today. I just need to confirm her reservation. She's not answering her phone and I'm worried. There was a pause. Papers shuffled. Let me see. Yes, we have an Amber Lynn registered. But my pulse raced. But what? She's checked in under Amber Lynn and guest. The room spun. I thanked her, hung up and sat there, staring into nothing. And guest. Two simple words that tore through everything I'd believed in. I tried to tell myself it could be innocent. Maybe a friend, maybe a mistake. But the truth was too sharp to ignore. Amber had lied. She wasn't on a girl's trip. She was with someone else. I sat in that dark room until sunrise, numb, silent, and empty. When the light finally broke through the blinds, it didn't bring peace, it brought resolve. I was going to find out who was sharing that room with her. What would you do if someone you loved betrayed you like this? Comment below. The next morning, the sun felt cruel. It poured through the window like it was mocking me, painting light across an empty room that still smelled like her perfume. I hadn't slept. My mind had been chasing questions all night, looping through every smile, every kiss, every lie she'd ever told. I made coffee but couldn't drink it. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I replayed the hotel clerk's words again and again. Amber Lynn and guest. Those 3 words changed everything. I needed proof, not just words, not assumption. Proof I could see, hold, and never forget. By 9 a.m., I was behind the wheel, driving toward the Seaside Haven Resort. The road blurred as my thoughts spiraled. I tried to remember how I'd missed the signs, the sudden change in perfume, the new lingerie tags I'd found in the laundry, the secretive phone calls. Every clue had been there. I just didn't want to believe it. 2 hours later, I pulled into the resort parking lot. The place was quiet, peaceful, the kind of setting meant for romance. My stomach churned. I parked far from the lobby and sat in the car, breathing slowly, trying to calm the storm inside me. I didn't know what I'd do if I saw her. Confront her? Walk away? Maybe both, maybe neither. I wasn't sure which would hurt less. When I finally walked in, the air smelled like salt and flowers. The receptionist smiled warmly. Welcome. Checking in? I shook my head. Actually, I'm trying to reach my girlfriend. She's staying here. Amber Lynn. Could you tell me her room number? The woman hesitated, polite but cautious. I'm sorry, sir. We can't share that information. I expected that, so I leaned in slightly, lowering my voice. She left her medication at home. I just need to drop it off. It's urgent. Her eyes softened. "Room 214, she said quietly. "Top floor, facing the ocean." My pulse thundered. I thanked her and walked toward the elevator, every step heavier than the last. The hallway upstairs was lined with white doors and soft music. My heart pounded in my ears as I stopped at 214. I heard faint laughter from inside, a man's laughter. I stood there for a full minute, frozen. That sound burned itself into my chest. I didn't knock. I didn't need to. The truth had already opened the door. I turned, walked back downstairs, and asked the front desk for a printed copy of the guest registry. The woman glanced at me, uncertain. "For your records," I said, forcing a polite smile. A moment later, she handed me the page. There it was, Amber Lynn and Tyler Marks. My vision blurred, my breathing slowed. The truth was no longer suspicion. It was fact, printed in ink. I folded the paper neatly, slid it into my jacket, and walked out without looking back. The road stretched endlessly ahead, but my mind stayed trapped in that moment. The sound of his name on that paper, Tyler Marks, I'd never heard it before. Yet it felt like I'd been living in his shadow for months. Every unanswered text, every sudden mood change, every lie. They all had his fingerprints on them. The drive back home should have taken 5 hours, but time didn't move right anymore. The world outside the windshield blurred into shapes and colors I couldn't name. My thoughts were louder than the engine, angrier than the tires grinding against the asphalt. I thought about the night she told me she loved me. She had tears in her eyes then, swearing I was the only one who truly understood her. I had believed her so easily. I'd given her everything. Time, trust, and the kind of loyalty that only fools mistake for love. Now I felt like a stranger in my own life. Halfway home, I pulled over at a gas station. I sat there in silence, gripping the steering wheel so tightly, my knuckles turned white. I replayed her laughter from that hotel room, faint through the door, but clear enough to haunt me. She was happy there, happier than she had been with me. That thought stung more than the betrayal itself. I walked inside, bought a cheap coffee, and stared at my reflection in the vending machine's glass. My eyes looked different, colder, older, like something inside me had cracked beyond repair. The man staring back wasn't the same one who believed in love stories. Back in the car, I opened my phone and scrolled through old photos, our vacations, birthdays, even lazy Sunday mornings. In every picture, I saw a version of me who trusted her without question. I wanted to reach through the screen and warn him, tell him not to give so much to someone who would take it all for granted. The miles kept slipping away, but the anger didn't. It wasn't just about the cheating, it was the humiliation, the idea that everyone else might have seen it before I did. That somewhere, people were laughing at how blind I'd been. By the time I reached our driveway, the sun was setting. The house looked the same, calm and quiet, like nothing had changed. But inside, everything had. Her car wasn't there, she was still at the hotel. I parked, turned off the engine, and sat there in silence. I should have cried, but I didn't. The tears were gone, replaced by something colder, resolve. If she could lie so effortlessly, I could act just as calm. I would wait. I would listen. I would let her dig her own grave a little deeper before I buried the truth. The long drive wasn't just a return home. It was the road between the man I was and the man I was about to become. The next morning, I woke up still wearing yesterday's clothes. I hadn't meant to fall asleep, but exhaustion and anger had blended into something that left me hollow. The printed registry sat on the table beside me, edges creased from being held too tightly, her name beside his. Amber Lynn and Tyler Marks. That was all the proof I needed. By noon, I heard her car pull into the driveway. My pulse quickened, but my expression stayed calm. I'd rehearsed this moment in my head all night. No shouting, no tears, just truth, sharp and undeniable. The door opened. She walked in, suitcase in hand, wearing sunglasses and the same blue sweater I'd once thought she looked beautiful in. She smiled faintly. "Hey, you're home early," she said. "How was your weekend?" I stared at her for a long moment before replying. "Depends who you ask," I said quietly. "Mine was quiet. Yours?" She froze, her grip tightening on the suitcase handle. "What's that supposed to mean?" I stood, walked to the table, and picked up the folded paper. I placed it between us like a final nail in the coffin. "You checked in as Amber Lynn and guest," I said. My voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. "Room 214, ocean view." Her face drained of color. For a second, she didn't breathe. Then she laughed, a weak, desperate sound. You actually called the hotel?" I didn't answer. She dropped the suitcase. "Okay, fine," she said, her tone cracking. "Yes, I went there, but it's not what you think." I tilted my head slightly. "Then tell me what I should think." Her voice trembled. "It wasn't supposed to mean anything. Tyler's just a friend. It got confusing. I was lonely. You were distant." I cut her off. "Don't." My words were steady but final. "Don't rewrite what you did. to make it easier to live with. She looked at me like I was a stranger. Jacob, please, I made a mistake. Don't throw everything away over one weekend. I almost laughed at that. The irony of her asking me not to throw everything away. You threw it away the moment you lied, I said. The moment you chose him over honesty. She started crying then. Real tears, not the kind that win sympathy. But I felt nothing. The man who used to ache for her forgiveness no longer existed. I stepped closer, holding her gaze. You know what the worst part is? I said softly. If you had just told me the truth, I might have forgiven you. Her sobs filled the room as I walked past her, out the door. I didn't slam it. I didn't look back. The silence I left behind said everything. Sometimes the loudest revenge isn't destruction. It's walking away while they crumble under the weight of their own lies. If you were in my place, would you forgive or walk away? Tell me in comments. The house felt different after she left. Quieter, but not peaceful. It was the kind of silence that comes after a storm, heavy, still, and full of wreckage. Her suitcase was gone, but pieces of her lingered everywhere. A hair tie on the counter, her perfume on the couch, memories hanging like ghosts in every corner. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the empty chair across from me. That chair used to hold laughter, morning coffee, and inside jokes. Now it was just wood and regret. I thought I'd feel relief after confronting her, but the truth is, closure doesn't come easy, especially when love dies slower than trust. My phone buzzed. Her name lit up the screen. Amber. I didn't answer. Then another call, then a message. Please, can we talk? Followed by, you don't understand. It wasn't real. Not real. Those words almost made me laugh. If it wasn't real, then what had I been living through these last few weeks? If it wasn't real, why did it hurt this much? I ignored every message, but she didn't stop. She sent long paragraphs filled with excuses, apologies, and twisted logic. I deleted each one without reading past the first line. She wasn't sorry she'd betrayed me. She was sorry she got caught. By evening, the calls turned into silence. That's when I checked her social media. The pictures of us were gone. Every trace of Liam and Amber had vanished overnight. She was already rewriting her story, painting herself as the victim in a tragedy she caused. But lies spread faster than truth, and the truth was already catching up to her. I didn't have to do anything. Word traveled fast in our small circle. Her friends started unfollowing her, one by one. Even her best friend Chloe posted a vague status. Some people don't realize what they've lost until it's gone for good. 2 days later, she showed up at my door, eyes red, voice trembling. I just need you to listen, she said. I made a mistake. I panicked. It didn't mean anything with him. I looked at her, really looked, and saw a stranger. The woman I loved was gone, replaced by someone who wore remorse like a costume. You can lie to yourself, I said quietly, but not to me. You knew what you were doing. She stepped forward, tears streaming. I'll do anything, Liam. Please, I can't lose you. I shook my head. You already did. When I closed the door, I didn't lock it out of spite. I locked it out of peace. Because for the first time, I realized I didn't need revenge to move on. I just needed to stop letting her back in. That night, I slept without dreaming. The storm was over, and though the wreckage still surrounded me, the air finally felt clean. Weeks passed, and the chaos began to fade. The phone calls stopped. The messages stopped. Even her name stopped echoing in my mind. What remained wasn't anger anymore, just quiet clarity, the kind that comes when you finally accept that some people destroy everything they touch. I spent my days rebuilding. Little by little, I focused on work, took morning runs, and learned to enjoy silence again. At first, it felt strange, too calm, too empty. But slowly, I realized peace doesn't mean forgetting. It means no longer needing answers. One afternoon, I found her necklace tucked behind the dresser, a silver heart I'd given her on our anniversary. For a moment, I just stared at it, remembering how she'd promised, I'll never take it off. Then I dropped it into the trash. Promises mean nothing from people who treat love like a game. A few days later, an email arrived from her. The subject line read, "Please read. Last time, I promise." I hesitated before opening it. Inside she wrote, "Liam, I know I can't undo what I did. Tyler's gone. He blocked me. I've lost everything because I couldn't be honest. You didn't deserve any of it. I just hope someday you can forgive me, not for me, but for yourself." I read it twice, then a third time. And for the first time, I didn't feel that sharp sting in my chest. I didn't hate her. I pitied her, because even now she didn't understand. Forgiveness isn't something you beg for. It's something you earn, and she never tried to earn it. That night, I stood by the lake, the same one I'd planned to take her to. The water reflected the sunset in gold and crimson streaks. It was beautiful, calm, honest, everything our relationship had never been. I realized then that revenge hadn't healed me. Walking away had. The best revenge isn't exposure, humiliation, or destruction. It's indifferent. It's showing them they no longer have power over your peace. I took one last deep breath, whispered goodbye to the version of myself who loved her blindly, and turned to leave. When I got home, I deleted every photo, every message, every memory that still lived on my phone. It didn't feel like erasing the past. It felt like clearing space for something real. Weeks later, I smiled again without forcing it. The pain had lost its edge, replaced by something stronger. Wisdom. I learned that loyalty is precious, and once broken, it can't be repaired, only remembered. Amber became just a story, one that ended exactly how it needed to. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't her victim anymore. I was free. This is how my girlfriend betrayed me. Should I forgive or move on? Tell me in comments. If this story hit your heart, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, because some endings aren't tragedies, they're rebirths.